Very interesting. Another couple of questions are coming in on measurement. What programs do you use to measure? Is it deemed savings, measured savings, other initiatives?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Thank you. So there are two ways that we do this. At the front end, before we give any dollars to pay for any upgrade to a building, the building first has to be audited or evaluated. And typically that's carried out by a certified auditor. And using the prior 12 months energy bill for that building, plus a typically if it's a single-family home, a 4-hour kind of walkthrough and testing of the building, they can model that data to identify the energy reduction impacts if the homeowner follows through with certain measures. So they have to undertake measures that will get to 15% energy savings as estimated by modeling that's done by the auditors up front. Once the measures are installed, the property owners give us permission to get the following 12 months data from the utility company so we can actually track actual performance against estimates. That analysis, called an M&V analysis, measurement and verification, is something that SEEA is going to get someone under contract to come and do. But since all of our programs will be entering their data into a central software system that SEEA is providing, we will have access to that data, and it will allow us to analyze it both in terms of individual cities or even areas within a city, as well as at a kind of a regional roll-up level as well. So we're just starting our program. We don't have a lot of data points yet, but getting an M&V contract in place is the next step forward.
Great. Another question's coming in about call centers used to support the program. Are they run by third parties, utilities, or SEEA itself?
Yeah, no, SEEA doesn't do any program implementation. It's really up to each of these cities to put in place a structure that is localized. In terms of a call center approach, given the relatively small size of these cities, many of them are, how do I answer that? If a program is being run by a nonprofit or a local government office, typically they are the call center. They're not paying to have a professional call center field calls. Now, as the programs grow and the volumes increase, this might be something that needs to change. For those programs that are working with utility programs and requiring the customers to go through the utility programs, if the utility programs have call centers in place, then that would be utilized.
Okay. So switching now to contractors, a couple of people are asking about sort of initiatives, education initiatives with contractors. Are you partnering with contractor associations or working with individual contractors on business and marketing skills to improve the conversion rates on these programs?
Yeah, I mean, that could be an entire hour discussion just by itself. So this is a requirement of the Better Buildings grant, is that each of the sub-recipient programs have what's called a workforce development component, that as we are trying to grow the market, that we're also ensuring that we have an adequately sized pipeline of certified contractors that can meet the demand. And in some of our cities, there just really isn't a pipeline in place. And so they're investing the time to find the right partners, whether it's community colleges or other nonprofits like a Southface that can do the training required to certify contractors. Putting those pieces in place, some of the cities are using some of the grant dollars to offer scholarships as an incentive to local contractors to get certified. It's extremely variable, and it's a major concern. SEEA ourselves, we are not, again, directly engaged at the local level, but we are doing what we can to provide the resources needed to support that effort. So, for example, I've invited Green for All, which is a nonprofit based out in, I think they're in California. They're also in Portland. They've been working very successfully on what's called high road agreements. So, and community benefit agreements, ensuring that as we build the contractor base, that we are providing, high road paying jobs, good quality jobs, and that we're thinking about how you structure those business initiatives so that, these are meaningful opportunities that we're creating in these communities. So SEEA will continue to do what we can to provide those resources, and the programs really are doing a lot on workforce development.
Interesting. A bunch of questions here on landlords and renters. Are there any specific programs among sort of the SEEA recipients targeting these groups?
Yeah, it's an insightful question. There's a reason why most of the programs, almost all of the programs, actually all of the programs, with the exception of the Virgin Islands, have started with single-family residential, and that's to avoid what's called a split incentive problem, where typically a landlord is the one that has to pay for the upgrades, but the tenant is the one that enjoys the benefits because they're the ones paying for the utility. It is a program design not to crack, or cities are just now beginning to turn to some of these multifamily projects. I don't think none of the cities have yet targeted single-family rental properties. Multifamily properties offer a slightly different opportunity than, say, single-family rental, but it is a barrier that we are that we're going to have to address more fully. But I think right now our focus is really just on getting traction in the single-family residential market.
Great. So I think we'll end up with one question here. One of our audience members was asking about partnerships with local organizations and initiatives. I believe you mentioned that towards the end of your presentation. Could you talk a little bit more about what you'd like to do in the future with local organizations?
Well, there are two ways to answer that question. There's what SEEA can do as a regional partner, and then what the programs at the local level need to do with local partners. To get these programs to work, you need to have very strong allies, trade allies on the contractor side, with the utilities, and also very good relationships with community-based organizations. The roles that they can play vary tremendously. In New Orleans, a nonprofit is taking the lead on the marketing and communication outreach because they have very deep networks and infrastructure that can really connect with the customer base that we're trying to draw into these programs. Really can't overlook the role of neighborhood associations even in driving uptake into the programs. It's a difficult question to answer simply, but I would say that as these programs mature, we're trying to identify the proper role for each kind of partner in building the program. So I think I talked earlier about in our partnership with utilities, we're finding that our programs play they have a lot of value to add in marketing efforts. Utilities have, for example, strong reach. Customers know their utility companies. They trust them. They may not love them, but they trust them. They get mailings from them every month. And so we can reach the customer base we want, but we're finding that we're able to bring a lot more creativity to the collateral materials to get customers' attention and to motivate them to move into these programs. So that's turned out to be a very significant partnership. So I'm not sure what else I can add to that, Rashek. I think the devil is in the details. If folks would like to talk some about specific partnership types, then there might be more that I could say there.
Okay, no, that's great. Well, that concludes our talk today. So let's thank Tamara Jones for joining us this afternoon. This talk will be made available through the Blueprint for Efficiency channel on YouTube and through the Yale channel on iTunes. If you would like a copy of the presentation, please visit the website of the Center for Business and the Environment at Yale. The presentation will be under the Carbon Finance Speaker Series for this particular talk. We will continue to develop and delve into new technology, business models, and finance and policy options as the weeks progress. Please join us for another talk in our series on April 19th on Connecticut's Neighbor to Neighbor series. We look forward to your continued participation. We thank you all for joining us for Blueprint for Efficiency, part of the Carbon Finance Speakers at Yale. This is Rashik Rahman from the Center for Business and the Environment at Yale, saying so long from New Haven, Connecticut.